it was live on TV.
You spent 30 years in the gym. You must be big because of steroids.
Yeah,
right?
okay. Why do you think it had to become such a big production with the arrest and lots of cops involved? I mean, we kind of touched on it, but I mean,
if he had handled this under proper protocols, there wouldn't have been anywhere near the media splash. I mean, we probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation this evening for the benefit of the citizens of Nye County had he handled it more professionally and responsibly.
Okay, well then we get to this. Can you provide a clear understanding of why you think it was handled this way? We've touched on this many times, but what is your honest opinion of why you think this actually took part the way it did?
Okay. I have to be very clear that I do not have all the elements that would constitute evidence. So this is merely my personal opinion. Okay? I believe that there is a long-standing relationship between Travis Huggins, who is one of the people behind anyone but Rick Marshall, and of course Steve Lee's associated with that. And I know that Dave Berukowitz and Travis have a long relationship, and they all have a very common vehemence that Rick Marshall should not be the next sheriff of the county of Nye. We've already talked about my question mark about why they feel so vehemently, because I know him to be a man of honor and integrity, so there's got to be something filthy in the background. But my view is that this was a contrivance, that I think they created this whole effort against Rick Marshall. We're 60 days from the primary, and I think they realized it's had virtually no effect, that the community has lived with Rick Marshall for 27 years. They know Rick Marshall. To many people, Rick Marshall is a friend, and he is the epitome of responsible law enforcement in Nye County. And I think they realize 60 days away from the primary, and we've had very little impact. I think this was a Hail Mary pass.
Well, you know, if it was, they probably played their hand too soon, because I would have waited until it was going to the general election.
Yeah.
Instead of the primary, because the primary, the two top vote getters are going to go to the general.
Yeah, I'm going to be very, very curious to see what Tony does when he gets back into the country. If I was sheriff,
I'd just stay in Italy. And say,
you may do that.
When's the election over? That's when I'm coming back. You know?
A little management by Skype connection right over the internet.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. But anyway, it's a shame once again here in Nye County, and I do want to express to the people that now Mr. Berkowitz's name has been mentioned quite often tonight. But when I look on the back of the arrest report, his name's not on there.
Right.
So, Mr. Berkowitz, if anything's been said in that, I apologize that if it's right or wrong or whatever. But
I do want to make a comment. Sorry to interrupt. And I'm sure you agree with me on this. The fact that we're focusing on this Anybody But Rick Marshall group and Dave Berukowitz and his vehemence against Rick Marshall and the actions of the other day, I'm not speaking about, I'm sure you would like the audience to know that you're also not speaking about any of the candidates.
No.
Right. So I want to be very clear that when we're talking about this group, we're not damning candidate A or B or C at all. This is a very small nugget of individuals with some sort of hidden agenda that hopefully we'll find out about in the future.
You know, it's just like on my meet and greet. It was not to cut down the other person. Tell me what you're going to do.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me what you're going to do, how you're going to help me, the voter, out. What you're going to do for me. I don't want to hear what you don't like. I'm not going to bring it up that I don't like.
Sure.
Something about your wife, girlfriend, mother, children, or anything like that. I want to know what you as a person. So that's why I always try to be careful that I'm not out promoting any one individual for sheriff or commissioner or anything like that, even though I know who I'm going to vote for, but you know what? To the rest of you, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I'll tell you an interesting story as an aside. In 2010, I was going to run for sheriff, but I had my first book coming out, and I wanted to promote that heavily, and I didn't feel I could do justice to both processes, so I decided to go with the book promotion. And then I was going to run in 2014. I actually had people in the community approach me and say, you know, I know you didn't go in 2010, but let's go now. And I said, and this speaks to how much I trust Rick Marshall, because I have very strong views about constitutionalism and liberty and where this country needs to be headed versus where it's headed now. And of course, sheriffs have a huge impact on that, on the liberty within the county. And so it would be my natural inclination to want to step up and do the best job I could do for Nye County. But I told the people who approached me, I said, I trust Rick Marshall so thoroughly, I don't need to. That doesn't mean Rick and I agree on every jot and tittle, but I trust him so thoroughly, his good-heartedness and his honor and his character. I said, I don't need to run. Nye County is going to have the best sheriff it could have. Why do I need to run?
You probably really wouldn't want to anyway. I don't see why anybody does.
As I'm watching this, you're right. I don't need to be hunted down and arrested for political motivations.
I know one time insulted my family very much when I ran for an office, and so I said then I would never do it again because it was totally uncalled for and everything. It was on live TV, just like when I have my political hot seat and we have the call-ins and that live TV, and my granddaughter was really upset about what the call was, and so I just said, it's not worth it to me. First off, there's not enough money involved. So why do I want to do it, to sit here and be insulted, you know? And I wish the people like Rick Marshall was arrested, and Mr. Berkowitz, I believe, was involved, even though his name's not on the back of this. I believe the people, before you make any bad judgment on this arrest, that you should wait until you see exactly what all comes out. Like you said, we might find out what is behind the whole situation, why these signs. I know signs are expensive because I've had to go through paying for them before. So,
right.
So
a lot of money involved.
We will find out why there's this money in this group that's going against him. We'll find out if this whole thing just. See, the thing is it's so hard to fix something. You know, like if I owned a business and it's the most successful business in town and somebody else takes over and they run it in the ground, for somebody else to come back in and make it a good business again takes twice as long as it does to run it in the ground. And so the mudslinging and whatever this may be about these signs, I don't know exactly where all the signs were taken down or if they followed them or who. Stephen Lee's name has been brought up a lot. We have asked Stephen Lee if he wished to come on here, and I wish he would have because I get more of a in-depth
would have been nice to have him here.
What he had to say about the situation and how the complaint was actually filed in that.
Yeah.
But he didn't show up, so that leaves us here with, you know, the questions that we got on about this here declaration of arrest and see where it goes from there. Now, do you believe that this could just, what would you say? How would you dissolve this? If you were, let's say, the district attorney and you said, there ain't nothing here, I'm just canning it.
Right.
You can't just do that because you know what the rumors and what people will be saying in town. You're going to have to come out with something.
Well, I think you can do that, and I think a district attorney with character would do that, and I believe that Brian is a district attorney with character. So I believe that what Brian will do in the end, I've not spoken to him about it, but what I believe he'll do in the end is he'll look at it and he'll come to the same exact conclusions we've talked about here today, that there is no crime. Even if, let's take a scenario that I don't know if it's true, even if anybody but Rick Marshall put signs up, and I'm sorry, Rick put signs up, and then anybody but Rick Marshall came and put their signs right in front of his signs so nobody could see his signs, and Rick came down and took the signs down. That would still be a business dispute. That's still not a crime because making your sign visible when you were the first guy there and somebody's blocking your message, making your sign visible then is not a criminal act. There's no criminal intent. So, and that's a far-fetched version of events that I don't know is true. But my point is, even if we take something that's at the far end of the spectrum that's far-fetched, it's still not a criminal offense. I have every confidence that Brian's going to look at this and he's going to say there simply is no crime. There's nothing for the DA to do. Now, if people would say, oh, you know, the fix is in, Brian's backing Rick, I think the best thing Brian could do is hold a press conference and explain, much like we have here, I'm not pursuing it because the law requires this, this, and this, and it's not there.
Well, see, I would have this show open for Brian's decision or Tony's decision that they could come on this show and explain exactly why they come up with the decision, no matter if it's in favor or against. their decision, so that way the people will know if they want to watch it live, they can watch it live. It's not the rumor has it or something. You know, I just,
Right.
here in Nye County, there's so much of that, you know, and I've heard so many rumors about so many things that happen. I just, show me the proof and I'll go with it.
It's funny, the only discussion I've had with Brian about this incident is when I called Brian to let him know that I had been informed that they were going to try and gin up false evidence to commit a false arrest against me, to silence me. I thought it would be a good idea to let him know that up front.
And I would call Brian and make a suggestion. Why don't you go join Tony over in Italy?
Get out of all this ugliness.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
you know, wait until after the election. But anyway, it's been quite interesting, and maybe in the future, the short future, we could be back on, you and I together, or if so, we could get Brian on here or get somebody in here that could explain more. And once we see what the actual, if there is an arrest report that comes out,
there will
or
be.
If there's more, well, I don't know if they actually got it to where they could actually come up with an arrest report. I mean,
Should be a matter of public record.
well, yeah, and you know, I don't know. There's so many questions yet to be answered, and what they did is that this is to obviously, I believe, slander a person's name before the election. This happened. It was quite successful down in Las Vegas one time for the mayor of Las Vegas, and like 3 weeks before the election, and then, but I can't see why this can't get handled as quickly as possible and a decision be made on it. To me, this would have to go to the front of the line. This should be done in a matter of 10 days or 2 weeks.
Yes, and I hope that the good people of Nye County will appreciate the ugliness of this event and the manner in which it was conducted and what I believe the motive is, and understand that these are some bad people doing some bad things against a good man, and that should dictate to their conscience who they vote for when they go to the polls or the primary. When you have some ugly people doing some ugly stuff, you pretty much know that the guy they're doing it to is probably the guy you want in office.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's why I said it. I hope it gets cleared up. I hope it gets cleared up before the primary. We only got about a minute left, and I'd like to announce next week we're going to be on for 2 hours. We're going to have 2 commissioner candidates from the same district. We'll probably have about a 2-minute break in between while one leaves and the other one shows up, because we don't want no riots inside the studio. And I really appreciate it, and I'm honored that you showed up.
Bill, thank you for having me.
And we will continue with this when we can. This is it. We're shutting down for the night. Next week we'll be back to the political hot seat. Call in live.